Question number 11. It can be inferred that each man who drove considerable distances in line 74 to see Janie was what? If we look at the passage, we see that Janie discovers that her widowhood and property was a great challenge, and the reason for this is that these men who had hardly even known her husband were traveling great distances to check on her and offer their services as her advisor. The passage says that Janie laughs at them because she knows that they knew plenty of other women who were alone, but the difference between those other women and Janie is that those other women were poor and Janie has property, which means she's wealthy. So with that in mind, let's look at the choices. We have that each man was assuaging his guilt for not having been closer to Joe. We don't have any indication from the passage that these men feel guilty, and there would really be no reason to feel guilty for not having been close friends with someone who lived a considerable distance away, so A isn't a good answer. B, each man is interested in helping her preserve her financial integrity. This would have been noble of the men if that had been their intention, and it might be what the men want Janie to believe. But because it's implied that they aren't being this helpful to the poor women, this doesn't really explain their true motivations. C, each man is concerned that she might get depressed and withdraw completely from society. This has the same problem as B. Why wouldn't they be similarly concerned with the poor women if this were really what was motivating them? So C is not correct. D, is each man hoping to convince her that he would be a worthy successor to Joe? A successor to Joe, her husband, would share her property or wealth, and this gets to the heart of the men's motivations, since her wealth is the difference between Janie and the other women. This answer is promising, but let's look at E anyway. Is each man troubled to see Janie fail to live according to religious principles? We don't have any indication that Janie is failing to live according to religious principles, and we don't have any indication that the men are worried about her in that way, so that leaves us with D as the correct answer. Each man is hoping to convince Janie that he would be a worthy successor to Joe. Question number 12. Which of the following best describes Janie at the end of the passage? If we take a look at the passage, we see that Janie is laughing. She knows the motivations of the men coming to see her, and she finds humor in it. She is enjoying being lonesome. With that in mind, we'll look at the answer choices. A, she is about to become a recluse after having seen the world's foolishness. A recluse is someone who lives a solitary life and avoids other people. But while it's true that Janie is enjoying being lonesome for a change, she doesn't seem to be committing herself to a life of solitude as a result of having seen the world's foolishness. In fact, nothing is mentioned about Janie thinking of the world as foolish at all, so this answer is incorrect. B, she feels free from social constraints and confident about the future. Janie's laughing at the men coming to see her, and she doesn't mind being alone. This indicates that she isn't inclined to remarry, and this is going against the societal norms. So she does seem to feel free of social constraints. And she's enjoying being lonesome, which means that she's not afraid of being alone. She is confident that she can be on her own and be all right. So B is certainly a good answer. C, she's laughing and enjoying being lonesome, so she isn't bitter. D, she has concluded that material wealth is not necessarily evil. Doesn't make sense because we have no hint that material wealth being evil is anything that Janie ever thought to begin with, so D is wrong. E, she is determined to ignore the intervening years and be childlike again. We have no hint here of Janie determining to ignore the years of her marriage. Also, enjoying being lonesome is not necessarily childlike, and it's different than what we do know of Janie's memory of her early life in lines 37 and 38 when she was getting ready to go on a great journey to the horizons in search of people. So E doesn't fit. That leaves B as the best answer, and it is the correct one. Janie feels free from social constraints and confident about the future. Question number 13. The tone of the last two paragraphs, lines 70 through 80, is best described as what? We have the literary term tone here, which is referring to the author's attitude toward the subject. Our choices are cynical exaggeration, gentle sarcasm, ironic anger, forced glee, and feigned sympathy. We already know from our work with the last two questions that Janie is feeling confident in the last paragraph. We know that she's looking forward to the future, being lonesome for a while, and that she's finding humor in the situation of the men who are traveling considerable distances in hopes of replacing her husband and thereby sharing her wealth. So let's look at the choices. A, nothing is being exaggerated here, so we can eliminate this answer. B, gentle sarcasm. The author does speak of the men driving considerable distances to ask after her welfare and offer their services as advisor. The men are not truly concerned about her welfare, so this can be construed as sarcasm. Janie understands their motivation, but she laughs at them, so she isn't feeling angry or bitter. This makes the sarcasm gentle rather than harsh, so gentle sarcasm is a good answer. C, there is no anger, ironic or otherwise. Janie is feeling confident and finding humor in the men's actions, so C is not correct. D, forced glee. Glee can certainly include laughter, but even though Janie laughs, there's nothing forced about it. This won't work. E, feigned sympathy. Feigned means insincere or pretended. Neither the author nor Janie pretend to be sympathetic toward the men, and the author is not pretending to be sympathetic toward Janie, so this won't work either. That leaves us with B, gentle sarcasm, as the only answer that will work. Question number 14. Which of the following best describes how Janie felt about the influence of her mother and grandmother on her character? By looking back at the passage, we can see that she had no interest in the seldom seen mother, so she didn't see her mother a lot. As we saw earlier, she hated her grandmother. So knowing this, we can look at the answer choices and eliminate the first two because they both indicate that she had appreciation for their influence. A, she doesn't credit either her mother or her grandmother with her honesty and industriousness. Indeed, she doesn't credit them with anything positive. B, here again, she doesn't remember her stern upbringing with appreciation. C says she still harbored some resentment, but she was confident that she had matured intact. This is sounding good because the fact that she hated her grandmother supports the harbored some resentment, but we know that she's confident in her ability to face the future alone, so apparently she feels that she has matured intact. So C looks good. D, she believed that she would never understand them and they would never understand her. While she doesn't say much about her mother, Janie seems to believe that she understood her grandmother. She knew that her grandmother dealt in scraps and was focused on the practical things in life, so we can't say that she believed she would never understand them, so that eliminates D. E, she worried that as she grew older, she would become more like them instead of freer from their effect. On the contrary, we've concluded that she is confident in her ability to face the future alone, so she isn't worried about becoming like them. That leaves us with C as the correct response. Question number 15. All of the following represent figurative language except. Our choices are A, expensive black folds, B, the weight of lonesomeness, C, a cloak of pity, D, a jewel down inside herself, and E, the marketplace. We can immediately eliminate B and C. Lonesomeness does not literally weigh anything, and you can't literally wear pity like a cloak. D, a jewel deep down inside herself in line 55 is not literal either if you look at the context. It says here that she had wanted to walk where people could see her and gleam it around. If it were a literal jewel, no one could see it gleaming inside her, and instead of walking around, she would probably be having surgery to remove it. So a jewel here is referring to something valuable and precious, but not an actual ruby or diamond. That leaves us with A and E. E, if you look at the context, is in that memory of her grandmother where just about everything is figurative, and Janie was not literally sold in a marketplace. The author follows this phrase by telling us that Janie had been set for stillbait. This is referring to the fact that Nanny used Janie for bait to catch a husband who could support her, so E is certainly figurative language. A is referring to the black folds of the material that she was wearing to her husband's funeral, and she would literally have been wearing expensive black clothing out of respect at a funeral and as a sign of her widowhood. So A is the correct answer.